we need to talk about what's happening with cash. Carrie, you wanted to talk about cash, and like, I'm going to places, and these places are like, hey, we don't want to accept cash. We're just going to use card. I know somebody who said, well, this is just evidence of like a new world order and, the end times and all this other stuff. And it's like, we're going to a cashless society and all that. And I'm like, well, I don't agree with all that. At the same time, there is a problem here, and that is that cashless society could hurt the most vulnerable. And to some extent, I think if you inform the left of this is what's happening, they might rethink. I don't know. They might rethink those kinds of things. But anyway, what's your take?
Well, yeah, no, this sort of came up because I was seeing these pictures on social media about, people our businesses not taking cash, but not just that. It was, if you're going to use cash, right? So some businesses were accepting cash, but if you're going to use cash, you have to use exact change because there's this coin shortage, which I'm like, okay, I don't know where the coin.
Can't just mint new coins.
Yeah, they're like, we have to wait for the we have to wait for the Federal Reserve to do something with the coin shortage, and I'm like, okay, but yeah, sort of the pendulum swing of that reaction has been, okay, this is new world order. This is the mark of the beast is the cashless society. And, it's like, okay, let's not swing the pendulum so far, but there is something to be said, I think, about the impact that a cashless society would have on, and not just poor people, but like my kids are learning entrepreneurship by going out and doing things and making money. And if they do that based on cash, you can't give to a poor person at a red light if you don't have cash. So I think there's something to be said about the practicality of it. We talked about property rights before. How can we say that the digital currency that we hold is actually our property if you can't actually touch it? So I think there's something to be said about hard currency and having that in circulation and having that be a regular part of our economy.
Gary, would you say that the whole debate now on cashless societies and this becoming more of an issue is that this generation's gold standard debate?
I mean, that's an interesting question. I mean, the thing about the gold standard debate was whether or not, the dollar had any value backed up to it. And, there's obviously the question of whether a digital currency has value, but there's the question of whether or not it's an actual thing. I mean, it seems to me that digital currency is just a series of binomials, and that, that intersects with the whole intellectual property rights thing, which libertarians, well, Rothbardian libertarians anyways, deny that the intellectual property rights exist. So if intellectual property rights don't exist, then digital currency can't technically exist.
Writing binomials down. Just want to make sure I got that word right.
So. Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, but there is an innovation though. I mean, when you say digital currency, I want to be clear. Are you speaking of, strictly speaking, like the way in which the federal government is managing, ledger lines, or are you talking about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency in the first place?
Well, I honestly, I mean, I've heard some things about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and how they're trying to, make that very different from the situation that we have. But no, I'm talking about the what the federal government is doing and the way they're,
Then I agree with you. So
yeah,
that's fine. But I mean, if we're going,
even in next episode, we debate Bitcoin.
Yeah. Well, but even with Bitcoin, I mean, how would that work with, kids who are trying to have a lemonade stand, or, poor people on the corner who just needs, need to buy a burger.
Okay. The super short answer to that is that it would be still a problem if you were trying to do that with, say, divisibility of gold. But in the case of Bitcoin, it's actually more divisible and more portable than gold. So it actually is an advantage over what would be considered to be the libertarian standard in this regard. So that's the short answer. Now that's backed up, I would have to say, with the theoretical foundation of what Bitcoin is and why digital scarcity is a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course, you have to get into, you mentioned like, how do you know that you own it? Well, okay, that's a whole nother issue. I mean, but even Stefan Kinsella has weighed in on that as with regards to, is Bitcoin ownable? And so I would refer you to that paper, or at least his writings on that, to get to that point. And so now I'm going to shut up. So
I think here's the thing, though. I think this whole debate allows us to really, as libertarians, push the conversation of, it's really not about the digital currency, and it's not really about the cash in itself.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the competitiveness of currency, and that we should have that as a society, so that people are free to choose that. But anyhow, I digress.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on with that. I think, there's probably a conceivable way where you could have a legitimate cashless society, but we gotta deal with the freaking federal government first.
Well, when the monetary system is being, it is what it is right now. That presents us a prescient problem and an existential threat to economic well-being.
That might have to be another episode as well, as how far do libertarians go where practicality is just all missed completely because reality does not fit the desire.